Maseches Horayos, Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph is today's official page, right? But we are now in Yud Amud Beis. Yeah, Dora Shraba. Dora Shraba, that's where we are. Dora Shraba, line starts with the Lapani, about 15 lines from the bottom of the page, and Rabba has a drosha to make. Dora Shraba, the Rove, Dora Shraba, excuse me, Dora Shraba. My dichtiv, what does it mean when it says, yeah, there's a pasuk here in Mishlei, very esoteric pasuk. What does the pasuk mean? Ach nifsha mikiryas oiz, the rebellious brother from the city of strength. Midyanim keberiach armon. The Midyanim either means the people, the Midyan, can also mean quarrels, rows, fights. Keberiach armon. Fighting is like beriach armon, is like the bolt of the palace. What's going on over here? Over here. Explains the Gemara. Ach nifsha mikiryas oz. The brother that's nifsha, the brother that rebelled, he zeloit shapirash me'avrom. Loit rebelled and, as we said yesterday, could have done things differently, as Jeffrey said, and as we all said, and Loit chose to depart from Avram, yeah, to detach himself from Avram. Avram is called Kiryas Oiz. Yeah, he is the city of strength. He is the center of strength. Oiz. Why? Because Avram Avinu was called Tsur. He was called a mountain, a rock. He was the strongest person. And Loit removed himself from Avram's strength. Umidyanim keberiach harmon. What does the second part of the pasuk say? Umidyanim keberiach harmon. Shitil midyanim ben Israel le'amon. He was mitil midyanim. He created a division, and Madon means a row, basically a fight between Israel and Ammon, his own grandchildren, his own descendants. Shenema, it says, Lo yovo Amoni umoyavi b'kal Hashem, and Ammoni and Moavi are not welcome in the Kal Hashem, in the congregation of Hashem, even if they're Megayer. You cannot marry an Ammoni or Moavi. I'm not talking about the women, I'm talking about the men, if they're Megayer, Ammoni or Moavi. So now, that is like an Armon, it's like a palace that has a bariach, there's like a bolt that closes one from the other. So too, Loit, because of his behavior, his grandchildren are not welcome to Kal Hashem. One of the reasons being that their whole origin came from an Avera, came from a very ugly incest kind of thing, even though the girls meant well, but Lamaisi was not a good thing. It's true that the Torah gives a different reason, that Ammon and Moav were very unfriendly towards us when we needed them. That's also true. But Lamaisa, yeah, the real origin comes way before, the way they were created, the way they were conceived. Dosh Rove, V'itema Rabbi Yitzchak, another drosha by Rove or Rabbi Yitzchak. My dichtiv, what does it mean when it says in this year's Leilu Nishmas of Imor Menachem ben Akiva and so Bas Moshe, Us Bas Shalom, Soch Shachon Yisrael. V'itema Rabbi Yitzchak, my dichtiv, L'taiva Yivakesh Nifrad, L'tava Yivakesh Nifrad. The one who separates himself wants tava, he wants lust, he wants desires. B'chol tushia yisgalea. Yeah, in the place of wisdom of tushia, he will be revealed, he will be exposed. Letava yivakesh nifrad, zeloit shenifrad ma'avrom. Avloit, when he separated himself from Avram, that is because he wanted taiva. As we said yesterday, he wanted money, he wanted women, he wanted the wrong things. And b'chol tushia yisgalea, at the end of the day, he will be exposed in every place. In every shul and in every bes medrash, we all know very openly the sin of Loit. Yeah, he started off by looking for the wrong things. He ended up with his own daughters, bemazed, almost, yeah, terrible. Yeah, in every shul, every year, yeah, when it comes to those parshias, you read the story of Loit. They say even more. Somebody told me as a joke in every museum. Apparently, somebody told me that there's like a painting of Loit and his daughters. Even outside shul, his kaloin, his disgrace is exposed. Yeah. Now, Ditnan, and what do we learn in the Mishnah in Yevomis? Amoini Moavi, those descendants of Loit, Ammon and Moav, Isuron Isur Oilom, as opposed to Mitzri and a doimi that are only forbidden for 3 generations, and there's a shaila when to start counting, yeah, but when it comes to the Amoinim Ovids forever, if we know that Amoinim Moav are there, we have a descendant of our Amoinim Moav, then we can't marry him. Today we say Sancheriv came and mixed up the nations. He moved everyone from place to place, so we don't know who's who, so we're Samech on the Roiv. But Lamaisa, in the times of the Torah, you wouldn't be able to marry an Amoini or Moavi, even if he's a 10th generation Ger. Omar Ula, yeah, or Ve'omar Ula. This is another drosha to do with Kavonis. Today's daf, today's Amud Yud Amud Beis, is all about Kavana, the thought that counts. Yeah, as we said yesterday, we spoke about 2 people who do exactly the same thing, Loit and his daughters. He means not such a good thing, and they mean something good. They're very, very different. Now comes another statement. Tomo Ulo, Tomo Zinta. Tomo, the big tzaddikus, Tomo was Yehuda's daughter-in-law, and she, at the end of the day, was Mazana. She was, was outside marriage. We all know this story. She dressed up like a Zoino v'chulei. Yeah, and she was Shomeres Yovam. She was supposed to marry someone else, which was Shela. The Zimri Zino. Zimri also, Zimri was Cosby Batsu, the Cosby Show. Yeah, Zimri Zino. Zimri was also Mizana with a goita in front of everyone. Tomo Zinta v'yotzim imena melochim and nevim. Tomo was Mizane, and look at the result, Melochim and Nevim. Yeah, Tomo, she was the mother of Yehuda. Yeah, there was Melochim and Nevim. Yeah, because from the same Shevet, he also had Nevim. And what? At the end of the day, there is, according to one opinion, they got married, and another opinion says they didn't get married. But whatever it was, yeah, Peretz and Zoach were the first, they were the only surviving children of Yehuda, also Shela, but Shela, I don't know, we don't know much about her. So there is the 2 opinions in Rashi. With all due respect to Me'am Loez, which I know you're a very professional Me'am Loez reader, Rashi in the Chumash says that either V'lo Yosaf either means that he did not continue and they were there once and that's it. The other opinion said no, that he got married, they married, and they lived happily ever after. No white picket fence, but they lived happily ever after. Rak rega bevakasha. Zimri zina. Zimri was mezane. No flukam elvavas miYisrael. Zimri did the same act of znus, and look what happened. Look at the result. Yeah, the proof of the pudding is in the taste. What happened in the end? He caused, many people to die. The whole Magefa was Shimon. How many? 22,000, 24, whatever, many. I don't remember. 20,000, 22,000. Yeah, I should brush up on my, Chumash. In any event, so Zimri was Mezane and many people died. Yeah, and that was the result of that. The question is, what's the comparison? We all know that Tomar meant well, and Zimri just was trying to rebel in Mizane with Cosby. So what's the comparison? I remember hearing as a Bachur, and somebody told me it's a very big idea, very central idea in Chassidus, that the Chassidish Sefurim, I don't know which ones, they say that he meant well also. Zimri was trying to mimetaken the Avera of Znus, and it's very, very high root, it's Shemaim, Shosha, Elyon, something very heilig. So that shows us how dangerous it is. Maybe he had some kind of, heilig, holy kavanas, but at the end of the day, he was just mezane. He didn't really hit the mark to really be mechaven the Shem Shemaim. At the end of the day, it was an avera. Mashem Ken, when it comes to, and it was against halacha also at the end of the day. It was against halacha because halacha was already established that the boiler ramis kanoim pogim, but boiler ramis he has to die right away. So Mimela, Mashaken by Tomo, she really meant well. No, I'm saying there's a havamina to compare. Otherwise, what's the comparison? Even though he may had some heilige kavanas, at the end of the day, it was just a ma'isa of yes, Baruch. Very good. Here comes the famous line. We continue. Line starts with Melochim, and we're in the middle of the line. Omar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchok. Gedoil avera lishma mitzvah shelo lishma. An avera done for the right purpose, l'shem shamayim, is greater than a mitzvah done not l'shem shamayim. Wow. Ooh. Shenema, how do we know that? That's a bomb. That's a big thing. How do we know? Shenema, it says about Yael, Tevorach minoshim Yael, eshes chever hakeni. Yeah, minoshim ba'oel tevorach. Yeah, Yael shall be blessed more than eshes chever hakeni. Yael was married to a ger or descendant of Gerim from Israel, and Yael, we know the story. Yes, she called in Sisra to her tent. Sisra was the general of Yavin, and after he came to her tent and they had relations. We'll see later, even though it's not before in the pasuk. So he fell asleep, and then she, basically not beheaded him. It's true, she hit him with a peg of the tent. That was the beginning of the failure of Sisra's army. So now she should be blessed, says Dvorah, the Gdol Sador, Dvorah, it's all about women here. Dvorah said she'll be blessed more than the Noshim in the tent, who are Man Ninu Noshim Ba'oil, who are the women who are in the tent, who are they? We know women in the wall, who's women in the tent? So Rivka, Rochel, Velea, the four matriarchs, that's the right way to say it, the four women, the greatest women they're all called Ba'oil, so, Rivka, the oil is always mentioned there, the tznius. So we see what? We see that she's greater than them. Now, she did an Avera, but because the Avera was Lishma, because the sin of having relations with a Goy, not recommended, but she did it for the very right purpose, so the entire nation should be saved, So that's why she's praised more than somebody who does mitzvah, Sheloi Lishma. Aini, is that so? Is it that great? Are you telling me that a Avera, Sheloi Lishma, at the end of the day, it's an Avera, don't write it home, only Yol can do it. You want to tell me that an Avera is greater than a mitzvah Sheloi Lishma? So that also downgrades mitzvah Sheloi Lishma, right? When you compare, Bill Gates to a pauper, both sides, is it that bad? A person should always be involved in Torah mitzvahs, even not for the right intention. Because at the end of the day, if he starts off without lishma, he'll end up, lishma, be on the right path, even not for the right reason. But at the end of the day, hopefully, you'll do it for the right reason. I have a Goin over here, brought the Sefer of the Goin that talks about it soon. In any event, we'll elaborate on that later. But right now, the question is, what are you talking about? You're telling me that Avera, at the end of the day, it's an Avera. It's going with a Goy. And you're telling me that's greater than Mitzvah Sheloi Lishma? A Mitzvah Sheloi Lishma also has value. You want to tell me it's less than such an Avera? Therefore, we change the formula, we change the equation, and we say, Ema, you should really say, the real version should be, Ke mitzvah sheloi lishma, ke mitzvah sheloi lishma, equal, which means an avera lishma has a plus and a minus, and a mitzvah sheloi lishma has a plus and a minus. It's a good, here the intention is good, and the deed is not, and here the other way. That makes sense. Right? That's an equation that I can hear. But to say that it's more than that would be already too much. Now we continue, no questions, because we have to go into the momentum. Omer b'yochanon, Sheva be'ilois bo'al oisoi rosha b'oisosho. This rosha, he had relations with her 7 times the same night. Shenema, start counting the words. It says in the pasuk, Bein raglea, between her legs, Bein raglea kora, he crouched, nofal, he fell, shochav, he slept, lied, and again, that's already 3. Ben raglea, again between her feet. Kora, nofal, that's another 2. Kasher kora, that's already, sham nofal shodud, kora nofal shochav, kora nofal, kora nofal, 7, 7, 7. Count till 7. 7 times we have the same verbs repeating themselves, all alluding to the Maisa. 7 times. Boisasho, Shenema, Frek the Gemara, okay, Veha Kamisani Avera. At the end of the day, she's enjoying herself. She's enjoying the Avera. In other words, as opposed to Chilul Shab, Yael was there. She was there. What? The assumption is that's an enjoyable thing. That's a psikresha by normal people. Esther was. I hear. Esther's another similar sugya. But in any event, she enjoyed the avera, we assume. Now, so Mimela, the question is like a psikresha that there's enjoyment here, so she's doing an avera. If you're mechalul Shabbos, you're not enjoying yourself physically, then you can say misasik. I'm doing it completely unintentionally. By chalovim v'arayos, when it comes to physical enjoyment of food or relations, it's a reality. You're chayav chatos because you can't say nothing really. I'm not connected to the ma'isa because you're enjoying it. Your palate enjoys it. And here we come to, I think, what you mean. What's good for the Rasha is bad for the tzaddik. Yeah, for him it's considered good. For her it's considered bad. She did not enjoy herself. Being with such a Rosho, such a person who he may have enjoyed himself, she did not enjoy it because in the very, very root of her neshama, she was so holy, she mamish did not enjoy it because for her, being with a Rosho is fich. It's for the tzaddik that's not enjoyable. Omar Yehuda Omar Rav. Now we are quoting the same statement that we mentioned before. We are 4 lines from the bottom of the page of Maseches Horayos of Yud Amud Beis. La'olam yasek odom b'torah b'mitzvos afilu sheloi lishmo. You should always be involved in Torah mitzvahs, even sheloi lishmo, even not for the right intention. Shemitoch sheloi lishmo, bo lishmo. Yeah, because eventually you'll get the right place. We're going to quote the posuk that proves that, and then I have a little bit to add over here, and then questions. Shebesachar mem beis korbanos shehikriv bolok harosho. There were 42 korbanos, 42 sacrifices that bolok harosho gave Hashem, offered to Hashem. Why 42? Because I'll show you the math. This is very, very complicated, high level math. It's like Oxbridge right in front of you. You won't believe it. Bilam wanted to curse Bnei Yisrael 3 times. There were 3 attempts, all became brochas, right? And every time he told Balak, build me 7 mizbachos, and be makriv korbanos. So now, every time he offered 7 animals times 2. Let's start with 7. Every time there were 7 animals times 3, that's 21. 7 times 3. But there wasn't just 1 animal each time. There was par and ayil. There was a bull and a ram. So that's 21 times 2. That's 42. Yeah. I gave up the job as the top person in Oxford, and I'm teaching Torah. You should appreciate that. No, that's I meant. You have homework to figure all that out. In any event, what did he do? Look at that, 42 korbanos for what? Against Klal Yisrael. He's not doing it for the right reason. But he still wants to have some kind of closeness to Hashem. He believes in Hashem as being the omnipotent. And therefore what? Because Rus, she was the granddaughter of Eglon, and Eglon was the grandson of Balak. They're all from Moav. Yeah? So you see that he was zeichet to such a holy descendant. The Omar, look. The Omar Beis of Rabbi Chanina. Rus, Bas B'nai Shel Eglon. She was a granddaughter of Eglon. Ben B'nai Shel Balak, and he was a grandson of Melech Shel Balak, Melech Moav. And therefore we see that this mitzvah Sheloi Lishma, so to speak, is still worth a lot, even not Sheloi Lishma. And we as Yidden, we say, Mitoch Sheloi Lishma, eventually we'll get to Lishma. The question is, when does that apply? There's a machlokes between Tosfos and Tosfos in different places, because his Gemara also appears in Psachim. I learned it recently in the beginning of Mokum Shenogu and in other places. So what does it mean Sheloi Lishma? Generally speaking, before we look at the Goin, there are 3 levels of Sheloi Lishma. One person, Loi Lishma, is a person who only learns in order to be mekanter, in order to either means really, really bad to disprove the Torah, to be mekanter, or to like chapter his friends to show that he's better than everybody else in a very nasty way. He's only looking for Torah in order to be mekanter, to have a fight with his friends over the Torah. He has absolutely no other reason or interest over there. That is bad. And L'Kula Alma, this person would not get into Lishma. When his Kavanah is really extra negative, even anti-Torah in a way, then he will not get anywhere. No, that's not the Sheloi Lishma we're talking about over here. Now, there we have another level. The person who does it for kavod, everyone should think I know Shas, I'm going to wear a frock, everyone will say I'm a Talmud Chacham, I'll be famous, I'll be considered, the Choshuva, frock and Hamburg, who can stand that temptation? And that person is a machloikis. There's one Tosfos in one place that says that that's okay, not okay temporarily, eventually you'll get there. The Goin is very much against it. The Goin says, no, I'm reading the Goin now. The Goin says, you know who is the person who is Sheloi Lishma? Minig Avoisov. His grandfather was an Avrech in Bnei Brak. His father was an Avrech in Bnei Brak. What should he be? An Avrech in Bnei Brak. Sorry, Kiryat Sefer. I'm saying same old. No great kavanah. He sits and learns. He's going to tell his wife he's going to work. She'll kill him. So I'm saying, that's the norm. So that's not a bad man. He's doing it stam with no lofty kavanos, not thinking of getting close to Hashem or, igniting the flame. So this person says the God, eventually he'll become more on fire, become more L'Shem Shamayim. Says the God, reading here for Evan Shlema, no, if he learns for kavod, for his own glory and gratification, then he will not get on the right path. That's Machloikis. It's not Machloikis going in Tosfos, because Tosfos also says it somewhere else. In any event, these are the three levels. Everyone agrees that if you learn Torah just to counter and, looking for questions and problems in the Torah, or in order to show that you were much smarter and better, that is definitely bad. Everyone agrees that if you just learn, no amazing intentions, that is okay temporarily. That's our Gemara. And if you learn for kavod, I'm going to become big and great, then it's a machlokes whether that's acceptable by our Gemara or not. And the Nefesh HaChaim says very strongly, I think I know what he meant, whatever, but it's too political. The Nefesh HaChaim says that if people make fun of those who learn Torah Shalom Lishma, that's very bad. Why? Because even if the person learns Shalom Lishma not in a good way, it's better than you, Mr. Scoffer, who you don't learn anything. You know what I mean? It's very easy for a person who barely opens a sefer once a day, and he starts making fun of the guy who sits in Kollel Lo Lishma. Where are you, Mister? Excuse me. Yeah? In other words, when you criticize the Shaloi Lishma guy, look at yourself first, and then look at others. So the Nefesh HaChaim is very strong against those who say, no, if they learn Shaloi Lishma, they might as well not learn at all. That's not true. Generally speaking, we accept what the Gemara says, B'toch Shaloi Lishma, Bo Lishma. Quick question time, and then we continue. I'm not saying that the Nefesh HaChaim says that the Lekanter guy is a good guy.
No, not a good guy. Then it's better. Because at least he's learning Torah. That's what I understood.
I don't know. I'm saying that the Nefesh HaChaim talks in general that even if the person learns Shalom Lishma not a good way, don't be maybe the middle guy. Yeah. The Nefesh HaChaim is a Talmud of the Gro. The Gro himself says that if it's for kavod, it's not good. The Nefesh HaChaim says, it's not good, but don't dissuade him from learning or make fun of him if you're not learning yourself. So where are you? We're continuing. Another statement regarding the daughters of Loth. How do you know that the Kadosh Baruch Hu does not take away, does not discriminate and remove even the sachar, even the compensation deserved for sichano, which means even if the person says something nice, just one word, or just a statement that is nice and good taste with the taste of Torah, then Hashem pays him. Hashem gives him even sachar for that. Mehacha, we learn it from here, from the two daughters of Lot, how they named their children. The Ilu, Bechira, the Karya Moav, the older girl, the older one, how did she call her son? Moav, which means what? From the father. She basically almost advertised it. This is Daddy's boy, really, in the simple meaning of the word, literally. She had no busha, exactly. And Amar l'Rachmanu l'Moshe, you know what Hashem told Moshe regarding her descendants? Al totzar es Moav, don't besiege Moav. Al tisgar ba milchama, don't provoke them into war. Don't wage war, which means milchama. Continues the Gemara to today's Amud. Milchama hu deloi. You're not allowed to fight with Moav because he's a cousin, he's a relative. Hatziu itzarinu. But you're allowed to provoke them stam. You're allowed to look a bit scary to them. You're allowed to show some kind of military authority. They're not supposed to feel so comfortable, but the war you shouldn't do. But you're not supposed to be their friend to the level that you're supposed to be mitzar them a bit. The Ilu Tzeira, on the other hand, the younger girl, the Kari Ben Ami. She called him Ben Ami. That's Amon Ben Ami. That's already more removed from my nation, my family. It's a very, very far-fetched allusion to the fact that it's from Daddy. Omar Le, about Amon, you know what it says? Al Tetzuram Val Tisgar Bam Klal. You're not allowed to besiege them or cause them any pain, any provocation. Afilu Tzeuri Loi. Not supposed to cause them any anguish. B'chlal. You're supposed to treat Amon better because Amon are probably within them, they have more busha because it came from a woman who had more busha, not to be so upfront. Mamish against today's generation. Today, what did it say? The more chutzpah, the better, the more outward, the more in your face. Here it says two girls did the same thing. The one who was more mechutzif about it, she lost. On the other hand, she has a mila. Now we're going to see another statement, actually four in favor of the older girl. A person should always be the first one to jump ahead and be mekayim the mitzvah. Yeah, always. Yeah. Do it with alacrity, do it quickly. One night that the older girl, yeah, she basically proceeded, she acted before the younger girl. Yeah, she was one night before the other one. She took the initiative and she did it earlier. She was zoiche that she joined the Jewish nation. Moav joined the Jewish nation 4 generations before Ammon. Why? Because we all know that we're about to read the story of Ruth the Moabite on Shavuos. And what does it say over there? It says who was the first one? There was Oved, right? Yishai, then David, and then Shlomo. So from Ruth to Shlomo, there are 4 generations, and she lived till the time of Shlomo. Now, when did Ammon join the nation? Ammon joined the nation, Naamah Ammonis. Naamah Ammonis was the wife of Shlomo. She was the wife of Shlomo, a Gioiris from Ammon. So they joined, but they're lagged behind 4 generations. So you see, because of one night difference, later on that translates into 4 generations difference of being earlier. Okay, so it's not a stira. The older girl took the initiative, and that's good. She was earlier and quicker. On the other hand, she was also more mechutzaf. Maybe it comes from the same place. You know, she was very maybe on fire. You know, she was first and in your face. She's the head of the, the line. The sheikh and the other girl was more passive, and she was, it's a good and bad. The good thing is she was more shy about it. The bad thing was that she was later than the first one, and she was advised by the older one. And therefore, they joined the Jewish nation later. And by the way, this is where I got it to finish. As the break is finished, now we're going back to regular Horayos stuff. But I promise that from now till the end of the Masechta, which is just 3 dapim, it's going to be easier than the parak before. Quick question now. Yes. So let's go. Now we're going back to normal. Yeah. Line starts with Al Bados Lamalchus. Tonu Rabbanon. It's easier than before. Me'am ha'oretz. Yeah. We said that there are 4 types of korbanos of chatos, right? Now, when we talk about a regular person, what does a regular person bring if he made a chait of, let's say, Chelev b'shogeg, he was short shuman. He brings the regular korban of a female sheep or female goat. It says me'am ha'oretz, from the regular people of the nation. Am ha'oretz, a regular person. What's me'am ha'oretz? What's the exclusion of mem? From, excluding. Prat leMashiach, a kohen Mashiach, a kohen gadol, does not bring the shepsele. Me'am ha'oretz, another drosha on the same vein. Prat leNosi, a Nosi, a melech, king, does not bring the regular shepsele of the regular folksman. Frankly, more what? You don't need the drosha. We know that anyways. V'alok v'yotzu, Mashiach lidon bepar, Nosi lidon beseir. We know that already, right? True. In other words, the Torah tells us outright that the Kohen brings what? A bull, and the Melech brings what? Male goat. So why do you need to tell me that they don't bring the shepsele? Of course. And Marshall, 3 people sit in a restaurant, in a I don't know, coffee shop. One says Coke. I'm against drinking Coke, by the way. Reuven says, please give me Coke, to the waiter. And Shimon says Coke. And Levi says a martini in a tall glass. So, of course, Levi does not want Coke. If I know that he wants martini in a tall glass, I know he doesn't want Coke. Why do you have to say, Veloy Coke? It's pashut. If I know there's another korban prescribed for the Kohen and for the Melech, so why do you need to tell me the drosha and not the shepsele? Of course not. It's him this and him the other. Yeah. Shiachol Mashiach, now answers the Gemara. Mashiach alelem dovo im shigegas maise mevi pa. Answers the Gemara very simple. Remember Kohen Mashiach? He's one exception to the rule. What kind of shgoga does he do in order to bring the pa? Academic svara, halachic svara. He's a Talmud Chacham, and he thinks it's okay halachically. He read the Shulchan Aruch wrong, yeah, and then he has to bring the pal if his mistake is by svara, by Helem Dovo. But al shigigas maise, let's say makes a regular mistake of what stam he thought it was technically chelev, lechude alone, made vikisma v'seira. I would have said on that kind of mistake, he's like by default, every Joe Blow. He's a regular guy, he has to bring the female sheep. That's very, very logical. Talmud loima mama oretz, prat lemashiach, mama oretz, prat lenosi. That's why we have to mention Amaoretz excluding Mashiach very well, very good. Why? Because the Amaoretz tells me that only for a regular person, you bring a regular korban. If you're Kohen Gadol, then if you made a halachic mistake, you bring the bull. If you made a regular mistake, you bring what? 0. That's the source for what we've been saying all the time. This is the source. A Kohen Gadol who made a regular mistake, woke up in the morning at home and boom, turn on the light on Shabbos because you thought it was Sunday. What does he bring? 0. As opposed to regular people. That's what we learned from the Amoritz. So far, one good strike. Frag the Gemara, who is a friend of Mashiach? The Melech. Wait. He doesn't work over there. Hey, you, Mr. Melech, for you, there's no need for a drosha. Teinach Mashiach, frag the Gemara. And Mashiach, I understand. You gave me a very good answer. Elanosi, but a melech, Enosi, b'shigagas ma'aseh hu demaisi. Enosi does bring a korban if you turn on the light on Shabbos by mistake, thinking that it's Sunday in the middle of the palace. Yes, a melech brings a different korban called male seir, and that's it. But the shlogo is the same. So now it's the same question with the martini and the coke. In other words, what's the story? If I know that the melech brings regular korban, what do you mean regular? Male, for making a regular mistake, male I know he does not bring female. So what does the Torah have to tell me? He doesn't bring the female. What for? In other words, in my mashal, if they said coke and you said martini, you don't have to tell the waiter and not coke. Of course, yeah. Rav Zvid answers on behalf of Ove. What are we talking about over here? A very specific case. He ate a kazais chelek when he was a hedyot, a regular guy, a regular prince, was not a melech. He had a kazais chelek by mistake. He was sure that this is Shuman. Benismano, Mazel Tov, he was coronated. How do you coronate a Jewish king? You put Shem and a Mishcha on his head, yeah, like a crown, like a circle orb around his head, and he became Melech. But the Yediyah, the light bulb moment, was later, yeah, as a king. So he sinned as a regular Jofo, and when he was a Melech, then he realized there was this interruption between the Maisa and the Yediyah. I would have said he should bring female sheep. Why? Because that's that's the lowest common denominator. Because treat him like a hedyot. Kamash malan, no. Mapitom. If he sinned as one person and got the realization as a different kind of person, different status, he doesn't bring anything at all. Says the Torah, does not bring the female sheep. Do everyone agree to that? Does everyone agree to that, rabbis? No. This is Chazor from before the Agadita. Hanicha, your answer is terrific and good and nice. Rab Shimon. The Ozil Basal Yadiyah. Rab Shimon cares about when the person realized the Oy Hoido Elav Chatosoy when he sinned. You have to sin and have the Yadiyah as the same status, otherwise it falls between the cracks, you don't bring anything. So you gave me a terrific answer. Ela Rabbanon, but the Rabbanon don't care about the Yadiyah regarding that. The Ozil Basal Chato, Rabbanon are much simpler. They say, leave me alone with the Yadiyah. Of course you need the Yadiyah, but they only follow Chato, meaning if the person sinned as a hedyot, he brings like a hedyot. If he sinned as a melech, brings like a melech. It's that simple. So according to them, the question is back to square one. My ikal mema. What are you going to answer? Again the question. Again, I'm repeating the question. The question is, the Torah says, me'amoretz, excluding a melech that does not bring the regular sheep that you and I have to bring. Yeah? Okay, thank you. Why do you need to tell me that? We know that a melech brings, befurish in the pasuk, yeah, in the same parasha, a melech brings the korban of he goat. So if he brings a he goat, he doesn't bring she goat. You know, there's he and she. Yeah, bathroom. That's too. What's the story? Why do you have to tell me that? And don't tell me because you're coming to tell me that why he sinned like that and he had the idea like that. Chachamim don't care about it. Chachamim don't care about when you realized, when you shmilized. They only care about when you sinned. So if you sinned as a melech, you bring as a melech. You bring as a head. You bring as a head. So what are you coming to exclude over here? Ella. Therefore, we are saying a similar answer, but more of a development. Ella Omar of Zvid Mishmed Dorove. We're offering a new answer. You know what's the story over here? Which story is the Torah coming to exclude regarding the Melech? Kigoin. Interesting story of the Melech. She'ochal, line starts with the word she'ochal. She'ochal chatzi kazais chelav kshu. He had half a kazais, not the whole thing. He had half a kazais as a regular Joe Schmo, prince. Venismano, Mazel Tov, they coronated him, which takes half a minute just to circle his head with the oil, and they said, you are the Melech, Yechia Melech, don't we always say? What happens then? Venismano, Veishlimoy, you know what happened then? He ate the other half. So he ate half a kazais as a hedyot, and half a kazais as a Melech. And then he realized, that's different. Why? Because we all know that to be mechayev people for an avera, you need how much? A kazais, right? Kazais chelev is chorus. Less than kazais is no chorus, and also no chatas. So now that's already complicated even for chachamim. Half a kazais is a hedyot and half a kazais is a melech. What do we do here? Salka daita chamina. I would have said nitztaref. Let's join the two halves. V'neiti kisba iseira. Let it bring the. I don't know if you understood me before when I said the lowest common denominator. You understand what I'm saying? As a hedyot, he brings a kisba iseira. So the half of the hedyot is a regular Joe Shmo korban, which is female. As a melech, he's upgraded into a male korban, but he's also a regular guy. Kilu, I would have said, he's a melech, but he's also a regular yid in a way. Bichlal Masayimon, 200 includes 100. So maybe I would say that, in other words, in Hilchas Brachas, I can see in Hilchas Brachas, which bracha do you make if you ate half a kazais mezoinas and half a kazais of shakol? Which bracha acharona do you make? Bora nefashos. I'm starting Israeli accent. Bora nefashos. Half you had like a cake or something like that, half mezoinas and half shakol. Cake may be different, or half a kazais of cake and half a kazais of cheese, whatever, hard cheese. And then what do you do? The common denominator, which is the lowest one, is bar nefashos. Maybe the same thing over here. If he's half a kazais like a melech and half a kazais like a hedyot, so maybe at the end of the day, the lowest common denominator is kisba seira. Kamashmalo, no, here that's the chiddush of the pasuk. The chiddush is no, that the melech always brings only the korban of a seir, of male goat. What would be about half? He would bring 0. And he'll have to do a lot of teshuva. He has to bring 0 because the nishtah. It doesn't bring, there's no one kazais as one entity, as one status, but the Torah has to tell me that. That is a chiddush.
So what happens if he has a kasai?
Oh yeah, there was a line, sir. Sorry, Bomine. Yeah, no, he had his finger before, sir. Important to add, and thank you both for asking. I have to add that the time frame over here is kedei achilas pras. You keep saying it's 3 minutes, it's either 3 or 4 minutes. The chumr, it's 9 minutes. The very, very chumr, the other is 90 seconds. Let's say it's 4 minutes, yeah? So if it's within 4 minutes, so you had half a kazais of chelav. Within 3-4 minutes, you had another half a kazais. That's the story over here. But if there was a time lapse of, let's say, I'm going the other extreme, half a kazais now, and 10 minutes later, another half a kazais, yeah? Then for sure, we say that he's not mitzaref b'chlal, regardless of his status. Even a regular guy would never have to bring a korban, because the two achilas are not joined together within the same time frame. Okay, now here comes another question. Okay, let's go. Bo minei, Rove, line starts with the word minei. Yeah? Rove Mav Nachman, Nesius Mau Shetafsik. Being a king, yeah? Being a king, yeah? Mau Shetafsik. Does that interrupt between two achilos? What does that mean? Hey Chidami, what's the story? Keep going. Listen to the very, very weird, interesting ukimta. She'ochal chatzi kazais chelev kshu hedyot. A person ate half a kazais chelev as a commoner, a regular person. Venismana ve'oval venismano ve'oval. He became a king, and then they demoted him right away. Within 4 minutes, they coronated him, and then he did something really bad, and they demoted him. Ve'ishlimoy, and then he had the other half. You got that? Half a kazais is a commoner. He was a king for 2 minutes, and then he's not a king anymore, off the throne, and then he is again eating the other half. What's the question? In the case of half when you're king, when Hediot and half when you're king, the previous story, lo mitzaref, it's not joining forces. Dachli palga kshu Hediot, upalga kshu nosi. You had half as a Hediot and half as a nosi, and the two halves don't join. Here you're a regular guy, here you're a nosi. It's not the same person. Schizo. Aval hocha, but over here, the idi ve'idi kshu Hediot, achle. Here, he ate the first half as a hediot, and the second half also as a hediot, mitzaref. So we say, excuse me, before and after, back to square one, hediot here, a hediot over there. Mimela, the two halves are mitzaref, oidilma, or maybe loishno, or maybe we say, no. The malchus is mafsik. Maybe really being a king is like a wall interrupting between the two achilos, because being a king is not stam being, being something regular, being wearing a mask. Being a king is halachically different regarding korbanos. Get this? In other words, when you were a king, your korbanos status was different. So maybe that's an interruption between the two halves of the achila. I had half over here, half over there within, let's say, 4 minutes, within 9 minutes, whatever, to be more normal, yeah? But in between, you're in a matzav of not bringing this kind of korban. It's like a different status. It breaks the continuity. Maybe yes, or maybe no. So what do you say? Let's learn from the following statement. Ula b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan says, Ochal chelev. Another story about a person, unfortunately, OTD. Ochal chelev. A person ate chelev. V'hifrish korban. He set a korban, knowing the what? That he has to bring a korban. He's a regular guy. He's not a melech. He's not a this. He's not a kohen. He's just the next door neighbor. And what happens? He frish korban. He was mafrish. Set aside the korban to be brought. The himir, Jews for Yoshke, they already knocked on his door. They convinced him to see the light of the choshech, and he became something else, a Christian, Buddha, something. He's completely off. He defines himself as a goy. The Chazar boy, now he's doing tshuva. He's crying back to Hashem. Jews for Yoshker are not convincing him anymore. Yeah, Yad Lachim convinced him back. Yeah, Baruch got the better side of him. And the Chazar boy, now he's back to be a good Jew. Yeah. It's very nice that he's Jewish now, but this korban that he set aside, this specific korban cannot be brought. Why? Because he's nidche, because he was rejected, and as a mumar, as a convert, the wrong way, a person cannot bring a korban. While he was mumar, he cannot bring the korban. So since he was rejected, and his korban was rejected while he was goy, so to speak, now the korban is already rejected for life, right? If so, the same thing with a melech. Maybe once he's a melech, you can say he's a melech, rejected, even though he went back to be a regular guy. Just like the mumar went back to be a Jew. But you see, the korban is already off the charts. The korban does not go back. So same thing over here. It should be an interruption. Answers the Gemara, no, lav dafka. Hachi ashta, is that the same? Hachi ashta, mumar lav ba'atui korban at all. A mumar cannot bring a korban of any shape or form. A mumar is completely off the charts, completely out of the radar when it comes to korban. It cannot bring any korban in the world. So therefore, the rejection is so strong that the korban that he set aside and then became mumar is completely set aside for life. But hi, Mr. Melech, that Melech for one moment, that momentary Melech, a Melech does and should bring a korban, just a different type of korban, but he still brings a korban. Therefore, the Melech who brings a korban, but a different one, I don't know. Maybe even though there was a temporary pause, hiatus in time when he was different, but maybe the rejection is not as strong because he should still have brought a different korban conceptually. Now comes another question and answer. Let's just finish. It's very easy and quick. Questions will now only after in 3 minutes from now. A person who was a regular person, who was a prince, and what happened to him? He ate a sofek chelev. He ate chelev, then somebody told him, you know that this may have been, maybe. What does he have to bring? He should have brought Osham Tolui. Okay? Now, you know what happened to him then? Venismano, Venodilo Seikoi. Yeah? Which means he was a Hediot, he became a king, and as a king, he realized that he did something wrong when he was a regular commoner. Mau, what's the question? According to Rabbanon, what would be the halacha? You tell me. Does he bring Osham Tolui? Yes. He was a regular person when he sinned as a maybe. Just because he realized it as a melech, who cares the realization? Chachamim don't believe the time of realization has to do with anything, only the time of chet. It's not a question for you, should not bother you as a question. The mighty Osham Tolui. It's a regular Osham Tolui. That's it, of course. Ela kitibailach libda Rabbi Shimon. The question is according to Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon requires both Maisa and knowledge, both at the same status. Mide ishtani levadai, ishtani lesofek. Since as a melech, had it been a korban vadai, he would have to bring male and not female, and is different to the regular person. Therefore, for the sofek, it's also different. What does that mean? You tell me if you remember. Maybe look at the chart or just dig up your in your brains. What kind of korban does a melech bring when he has a sofek? Osham Tali. A melech is not like a kohen; he's like a regular guy. So now, the etzem be a melech, be a hediot, it's always the same Osham Tali. But maybe not. Maybe because it's different regarding a regular korban, maybe should also be different regarding a suffix korban, even though it's the same korban anyways, but the etzem fact, the mere fact he's a king makes him different intrinsically. And now he should not bring anything. He's a different person. Here he's coming with Osham Tolu as a hediot, and that's an Osham Tolu of a melech. Everything by Melech is different, even though it's the same. It's a person of different status because he, as a korban vada, brings a different korban. So maybe according to Reb Shimon, he can't join the two dots, make a circuit over here. That's Hediya, that's Melech. Or maybe no. Ki ishtani levadai, di ishtani korban didei. Or say no, the more simple svara. When is different to the commoner regarding a real korban, which is really different. A vadai korban, for Hediya it's female, for Melech it's male. And therefore, when the Melech, he did it as a Hediot and realized it as a Melech, he brings zero. No connection between the two korbanos. But here it's the same korban. Be you a Hediot, be you a Melech, the Osham Tolu is the same korban. Ema Lesi Osham Tolu. So maybe he should bring Osham Tolu because whichever way you look, it's the same korban. Osham Tolu this way, Osham Tolu that way. So even though you have an Avera over here and a Yediyah over there, at the end of the day, you can join forces because it's the same type of korban. Teku. We do not know the answer. We remain in a mystery. We don't know the answer. And that's how we finish off the shir today. And now it's time for more questions, comments, and phone calls. Thank you very much.
Commoner,
Yeah.
and
Bye.